All right. All right. I think my stuff. Let me check if everything works. All right. Perfect. Guys, I do believe that now you can see me smoothly and that you can hear me smoothly. At least from what I see, it seems like I can see everything pretty well. There's no glitches. My face moves normal. And my graphs should also move normal. I'm gonna do a little test right here. I'm gonna write test, but compared to what we had just last week, it seems like everything is running quite smoothly. Do let me know in the chat and we will get started right now. So, all right, so if you are in the premium group, which by the way is free, yeah, it seems like everything is working. If you're in the premium group, you have, of course, seen the long trade that we have on as a swing trade. So with entry at 85, this is our usual. Perfect. Looks good. Getting some feedback. Yeah, this is our usual trade that we've been in for now quite a bit. I can even put it on Zoom. And this was a very simple trade, as we've talked about. It was simply grabbing these lows down here, right? And then once we had the reclaim, as you can see, we rejected it first, but once we had that reclaim, this was the entry trigger to this long trade. And from there, we had a nice move up all the way up to 90,500 today. And I have warned you many times in the group that I have taken some profit. So as you can see, I have about 1.6K that I have realized as profit, and I am still holding another 2,000 unrealized. And this has just not been touched. I'm keeping the stop loss here, as you can see, below the low. I don't think there's any need to move it up. I don't want to get wicked out and then we have that reversal. And I am patient for higher targets towards 92, which we can look at. Also, we did take a short trade, very, very, very simple. This short trade was off of this high right here, which was a very simple SFP. As you can see, 30-minute candle. I've explained this in my mentorship many times. We had that 30-minute grab above the liquidity right there. So this is the high, right? This SFP line. Had that little grab, closed back down. That's the entry trigger. I'm still in that short trade, but I did make a mistake and I accidentally closed 90% of it here. I think I had a partial stop loss here. Anyways, I took some profit along the way. Unfortunately, oops, I'm pretty much out. By the way, that's just my spot. I still have this account to now 6,000 because I had a short on light, which we will cover in a bit. But yesterday I made 3-something thousand off of that light short, which I still have open on my Bybit. It's just I'm tracking how much profit I'm making this month with small accounts. And so far we've made 4,000 on this account, and this one was at 3,000. I believe this was another 3.5 here. So 7.5K trading with these two small accounts. And then I don't think I can access my Bybit from here because I would need to do Google Authenticator. But anyways, it's been some really nice trades. I will show you the short that I took on light before we start off with the other stuff. So light. This I had been saying for a while that there was the need for this to pretty much die eventually, and this was ridiculous. You could even see here this had these big moves, and then it's used to having these big falls as well. So here already it fell 70%. Then we had actually caught this short, which I had given live, from 1.7 to 0.55. So that was another 70% off. And then last night we had a massive crash of, I think this one was way more, from the high to the low. That was 80%. And I was able to catch this. I know some people got stopped. I saw some other people who actually took this trade with me. So that was good. But basically what happened, I simply played a very simple market structure break right here. Here we pretty much always had SFPs. Here we had more of a break right here, right? You can see that clearly. This was just grabbing the liquidity down here. This was a genuine break. So I decided to try and short this because I did expect this to retrace eventually back to zero. I mean, I even wrote it in the Discord at one point. I was like, okay, I really want to find an entry on this because eventually I think this will go back down to $1. Long trade. Good evening. So basically what I did, I traced this for my entry. So actually, at first I got stopped out right here because I did short right here. I was shorting this retest of the value area low. I then had a retest on the 61866. So right here I took my initial short. The only thing is that I kept too much of a tight stop loss. I had my stop loss right here at 63, 4.63 right there. So at first I got stopped out, even though I went into profit. I did take some profit, I think. At first I got stopped out, and then I took my second position, which was pretty much the same thing, except this time it was even nicer because first of all, we hit into this other Fibonacci level, which I will eventually share with you, but this has been working better than the golden pocket. And also what I really liked here was that we lined it up with this point of control to the dollar. So that was amazing. And then as you can see, we had this small rejection on the 2 minutes, on the 5 minutes as well. These were very respected. We grabbed the liquidity from before, so all the early shorts got stopped out. That for me was like 100% a trade. So I had to take that, and I did, of course. I wish I could show you. Let me just cover my screen real quick because I don't want to put my details, but so that I can put my Bybit maybe. Let me see if I'm logged in. Bybit.com. All right. No, I'm not logged in. I can't show you, unfortunately. So anyways, let's get back to this. Yeah, so pretty much I took the retest, shorted it, and this was really an amazing trade. From there, within 2 hours, we dropped from 4.6 to 0.8. I made about 3.5k off of this. I should have made way more. I actually shorted 10,000 shares at this point right here, but I'm an idiot and I took profit way too quickly right here at this low, and so I took off like half the position here because I was making 1k, and then nothing. I missed out. I literally could have made $30,000-$40,000 off of this trade, but it's whatever. Now, let's go back to Bitcoin. Someone asked why we shorted Bitcoin. We shorted Bitcoin because there was a very simple liquidity grab off of the last high that we had. So this was the last major high. As you can see, you can treat this as a range. So if we are looking at this as a range right here, from this last high to this low, you can clearly see that this is just a range. So of course, I'm going to be taking, I mean, we can move this up to here now. My bad. Right here. So of course, we took range low, right? That was our long trade. Now our target becomes the opposite side. So the next high, which we did. And since we SFP, and if you still don't know what that means, there's free lessons on my YouTube where I explain exactly what an SFP is and how you can literally get in the short trades on your own. You don't need to be waiting for my signals. You can literally just know when to enter. Anyways, super, super simple. As I was explaining before, we had that 30-minute candle close right here, and that was the trigger. Right on this close, you can literally enter right there. You can put the stop loss above here. That's 0.41% of a stop loss. You should not be worried at all for that. And these can give you amazing risk to reward trades. That is how I make, for example, right here, that is how I can make, where are my trades? Right here, a trade that's almost $4,000 in profit. At this point, I think it was 1 Bitcoin, so that was 1K of a risk. Of course, I took profit along the way. So if I didn't take any profit, this would have been about $6,000 of profit. But of course, you take profit along the way, your profit becomes a little bit less. So you can be taking these trades. They're not that hard. They're really not. Just look at my lesson. It explains how to do this setup. And for example, right here already, you could be already at 1 to 3. And if this crashes more, which we'll cover in a second, we can take this all the way back down to range low, and that would give you, for example, 1 to 15. That means you can risk $1,000, and if you hold this throughout the whole time, you can come out with $16,000. So that's a 1 to 16 almost. So anyways, that's it for some risk management talk. Now let's look at, oh, by the way, look at that, sponsoring Bybit today on my hat. Anyways, back to Bitcoin. These are the two trades. Really fucking sucks that I accidentally closed part of it. I mean, for $50, I don't know what the point was there. That was a mistake. But anyways, if you guys are still in this short trade, I would absolutely keep it open. There's no need to close it unless we start reclaiming. I mean, obviously, I would just let it like go to stop loss, as it is a great hedge against the other long trade that you should have. But anyways, obviously you can start taking profit at the mid of the range. You can already take some profit here. There's probably an anchor VWAP coming up from the low. So probably first target would be 88.2. You can see already the respect of this anchor VWAP once here, twice, 3 times, almost 3 times, a bit front run. What else do we have? We have this point of control. Optimally, I'm still waiting for this 92 to 93 area. That would be my higher target, but we don't have to go there, of course. This could be, if there's enough bearishness, this could be the reversal point here. And then, yeah, so first target would become 88.3, second target would be 86.9, and then we have to move back down to around 85.5. So that is why it's also good, because you can have this short trade protecting your long trade. So if this reverses all the way down, which hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, all this 2K profit, which I was hedging before I made a mistake, that would have been protected by my short trade. So the point in shorting here, I will explain, is if I have this 0.5 Bitcoin long, right? And I open short 0.5, once again, here, this should be at 0.5. That should have been 10 times the size. Since I'm shorting from 90,200 and I put my stop loss now above this high, because I think if we see this reclaim, that's gonna go take the other high out, so there's no point. Obviously for 10 bucks I could just put it up there, but whatever. The point is that if I'm covering the full size that I'm also long, if this falls back down, for example, from 90,200 to 89,200, I would have made $500, but I would have lost, and I did lose, in fact, $500 compared to the peak. But at least that means that overall I lost 0. And so I'm protected. If this fully reverses, I still make the same amount of profit, because this will go back to 0, but this will go to plus 1,800. If that was 10 times the size, obviously. I need to match the size that I have here. If on the other hand, this pushes up, right? If I hit stop loss, the chances now that we get that continuation to 92,000 get much, much higher. And so I am losing around $100 from here to here, that's my entry, to protect potentially all of this, so these 2,000. I'm risking about $100 to protect that. And then if we break above here, sure, I miss out on an extra $100, but guess what? Then I will be out of my short trade from the move, which will be from 90,000 to 92,000. And so there I make another $1,000 off of here. But at least in this moment of uncertainty where we had that SFP and short trade entry, at least I'm protected in case we have a full reversal. So I hope that's clear. Anyways, now let's see. Overall, you do know that my target, so I want to cover Bitcoin very, very quickly because there's not much. I always say the same things. At this point, we're just waiting for these bigger targets. And then if you guys want to drop some names in the chat, we're going to be looking at some altcoins on which we can take some trades. We've been trading altcoins very, very well, to be honest. Probably could have made much more money trading Ethereum and altcoins and shorting them than with Bitcoin. But of course, we made some really nice money with Bitcoin as well. But I've mainly been trading light and hyper liquid, and they've been very nice. So if you guys have anything that you're interested in, maybe you're holding or something that you want to check, just drop it in the chat and we will go over it in about 10 minutes. Anyways, Bitcoin. Obviously, we're positioned very well already. Again, this short trade should have been bigger, but whatever. For a bigger short trade, what I'm going to be looking at is this area right here. I'm just repeating this for the members who have not heard it yet. But anyways, my target remains 91.7 to, I will give it even some more room, to 93. I believe we'd also have, right here, the positive thing is that we have flipped this anchor VWAP. So that's positive. Obviously here, what you want to do is to hold above this anchor VWAP. You do not want to lose this. If we lose that, that's when we can go towards that 88.2 to 87. So it's important that right here, we flipped it. As you can see, we held here, we front run here. Also this you can consider as a supply and demand zone. So if you want to scalp this, honestly, you could. It's risky, but you can, it's valid. Basically what you want to do is stay above this area, right? So once again, we held this as resistance once, we front run it, we held it once again as resistance. This time we flipped it. Now we're testing it as support. Hopefully this can hold and we can move up towards that 93,000 target. If we lose it, that's a bit more bearish. And you would have to start looking at the lower targets that I showed before. So what we could do actually is, let's see what we have here. We can set some alerts. We can try to scalp if we get this during the live stream. Yeah, we can check Solana after. I saw someone left that there. Also, when you scalp, you can get some nice entries. For example, if this anchor VWAP is reclaimed, let's say, you could literally have a trade that looks like this, back to already the highs. If we get there, that's 1 to 3. And then if you want to try and hold it and make it more into a swing trade, then that becomes a 1 to 9. You would obviously risk like super little here, but it can always turn out to be a good trade. Anyways, let's go back to what I was saying. So yeah, main short trade would have to be around this 93. Even though it's not my favorite, I always wait for a reaction. So please listen carefully. I'm not blindly trading these levels. I always wait to see what price does once we get there. So once again, one of my favorite entry triggers would be a range, would be taking out the high of the range, closing back down, and then you have that entry. Or for example, just a couple candle closes below, etc., change your market structure. For all that, there is some free lessons where you can actually learn how to get into these trades this way. I explain all of that in my free lessons, which you can actually find in my Discord now. Anyways, so that would be a short trade based on the reaction, but optimally what I'm still waiting for is to go and get all this liquidity, which we now have above these highs, all the liquidity that we have above these highs, and I would love to see a bigger move to what we can speculate is range high, right, to range low, and we can try and trade this bigger range. That would be very, very nice. Also, let's see what we have here. Yeah, anyways, that's why I have this area all the way up to 93, because we have the value area high of this range. So anyways, I would love for these higher targets to be hit. So around 95 to 97, that would be optimal. And once again, I will only get in the short trade if we get a bearish reaction. So if we get something like this, we can trade this back down to range low, and you can have, obviously the stop loss depends on where we trade. So once again, same thing, reaction, either we trade above this level and then go back down, and then you have your entry trigger. Or for example, we stay above this level for a bit and we do a failed auction. Once we go back below, that's your entry trigger. If instead we start trading above this level and holding it as support, I'm not going to be taking that short trade, and I'm going to be looking towards much higher targets, which I've already covered many times. First target is going to be that 105. Second target is going to be that 115. So here Bitcoin is very, very 50-50, let's say, because it could go both ways. We could have a massive crash, but also we could within a week or two already be, not within a week or two, but if, for example, next week we are able to flip 96, then we can have that fast move towards 106 and 116. And then from there, we would have to see more data, but things can change very quickly. So we can go from very bearish to very bullish very, very quickly. So please do keep that in mind. This is why I've added, for example, to my Ethereum spot positions. This is why I've added to my Solana spot positions. This is why I also added Bitcoin spot, because I don't want to miss out if in fact we do have this bigger move. Because if we're trading at 116, I can guarantee you're going to be pissed that you didn't buy at 80, right? Because that's going to be about $40,000 of a difference from 80,000. So of course, be protected, be cautious, but also, start thinking that we had a pretty big fall. So it's possible to see some nice relief, some short squeeze, etc., etc. Anyways, we're already positioned from the lows. So if you've been in my Discord, you should not have an issue with this. Now, let's cover potential long trades. Very, very simple. I'm always talking about swing trades, by the way. This is not local action. Potential long trades, what you would have is, sorry, 1 second, because I lost, there it is, my whoop bracelet. Anyways, the long trades would be off. If we go back down to these lows, which I'm going to zoom in so you understand, I'm going to remove all of this. Let's remove these two and this, make it very simple. So if we move back down to these lows, I absolutely do not want to see that. I think at that point, there's no point to hold once again and grab the liquidity. We might as well go for these lows. And if we lose these lows, we can either have one of two things, have a massive failed auction, which tricks people. So everybody's going to think they're bearish, everybody's going to go short. And then we can have that reversal, for example, if we do something like this. But essentially, once we lose this low, I would expect to go and take this one too. So that would be very bearish, which is why also it's good to strategically position yourself in these short trades from higher, just in case we do have that full-blown reversal. And then we would have to look at either of two things, either taking this low out on a simple SFP or failed auction and reverse from there, or we would have to look at these lower targets. And the first target is 77. I think there's another thing at 75, but I'm not going to cover too much of that because we're still very far from there. But I would definitely start looking at these targets if we are to reverse and go back down to these lows. So we want to be getting into these short trades when we are given them. Very low risk and potential to go much, much lower. For now, I'm not going to cover like lower targets. We do have this 65, 67, which I've talked about, but until we trade towards this 90,000, I don't even want to worry for now. Anyways, so yeah, those are the possible trades that we have. So remember, 84, 80, 77, to make it very simple for you guys. And now we can move on to Ethereum and then Solana, since someone asked. So Ethereum, I had given, let's see, I don't remember what I had given. Ethereum, I had given this long trade, which played out perfectly, went to my short target right here, which never played out. I never even sent the signal to go short because, as you can see right here, this never held as resistance. Sure, you could have shorted this initially off of these 30-minute candle closes, but that would have just been a rejection 61866. I wouldn't have taken this short trade because we held above the anchor VWAP, and it seems now that we're flirting with this anchor VWAP and with this 6166 area on the Fibonacci, and it seems good if we can hold here for this to have another move up, which I have been giving for now. I would say first to 3.19. This is good for a potential short. Once again, we would have to check reaction. This would, I think, fit pretty well with that 93 target that I gave on Bitcoin, which, by the way, we could have scalped. We could take a small position here Let's see. I always like to take some live positions. I will take something very small. You could, if you want to. You could, as I was speaking before, the reclaim of that anchor VWAP with the stop loss below, retargeting the highs, and that would give you a 124. I'm gonna risk like $100 on this because why not? Could be good. I mean, obviously it's risky. Don't risk all your wallet. $100 for me. I always say this, not to flex or anything, but it's just nothing to me for my wallet size. A little bit more than $100. So I don't mind taking these type of trades. Okay. So please risk 1% of your wallet. This is less than 1% of my wallet. It's way, way less. So if you're trading with $1,000, definitely do not copy me and do not risk $150. If you're trading with 1,000, you should be risking $10, for example. Also considering this is a scalp. Okay, so I want that to be pretty clear. Anyways, I'll be holding this. It's a really good size for the risk that we have. And yeah, so let's let this run whilst we look at other charts. I'll either take a stop loss or I'll take a nice win. Because if we do go back to the highs, that will be, I mean, I would probably let this run. But for example, if we go back to the highs, I'm risking 150 and I'm making almost $700. I don't know if you guys can hear, but there's a little bit of a mess. I got some people at home, so I hope that's not too loud. Anyways, we'll let this trade run and see how it goes. Back to Ethereum. Obviously, Ethereum, you can be taking the same exact setup. We could take this, to be honest, but I would want to keep it a bit more wide because I don't like the low. And we could go for something like this, even though risk to reward is not amazing. Either you got to go risk more and get a tighter stop loss, perhaps at 3,000. But I never like to put my stop loss there. Or you can risk very, very little, have a very, very tight stop loss like this. But to be honest, since we have the trade on Bitcoin, I would be chill right now. Anyways, if we can flip this, this is a very important level. As you can see, I was expecting for a short trade, which never triggered because, as I said, 30-minute candle closed above the levels. And so I never took this. And again, we have this point of control. Let's see if it moved up. I don't think so. It's a big one. Yeah, so we're really just flirting with this point of control. You could be looking for a higher time frame change of market structure, for example, right here, but I just don't like how this low is here. So for example, if we do take this low, you do have the setup, I think, but wait for the reclaim of this anchor VWAP and to be above that point of control. And then you can take a scalp here, something that will look like that. But at least you have a nice invalidation. I just don't think at the moment we have a nice invalidation on Ethereum. So that's it. But this can move much higher if we can hold this level. That I'm pretty sure about. It all depends on here. And I hope it's clear. I mean, you can see this is a massive resistance. If you flip massive resistances, typically you have a nice move up. So that's the logic behind this. So bigger short trade is going to be at 3.2, but my biggest target is going to be, which I am kind of pissed about because we did reverse here. I did take another nice short trade, as you can see, at 3.4. I didn't take this. I warned about this at 3.4. I sold quite a bit of my spot actually here. So it's still a win, let's say. But yeah, that was nice, but I'm still waiting for this higher target of 3.7. There I would unload some spot and I would be looking to hedge my spot fully of whatever I don't sell. I think that's a very big level because also if we flip this level and we're able to flip it into support, then I do expect Ethereum to move up to that 4.3. And actually our target at that point becomes 4.7 if we're able to reclaim 3.7. And honestly, once we're at 4.7, the chances are that we're going to go to a new all-time high. So once again, Ethereum is also another one, another token which can change very, very quickly and which we definitely need to keep an eye out. because there are some big resistances, which if flipped, this can change very quickly. I think, for example, we just need to flip this 3.4 from 3.4 to 3.7. There's not going to be much resistance. We can see that move up pretty quickly. And then that will be, I think, the most important level, which will give us another 15% if we're able to hold that support. So I hope that's clear as well. Now let's go to Solana. Solana, 1 second. 1 sec. I'm trying to. So anyways, Solana, let's see what we have here. Once again, you can see the respect of this weekly level. I did attempt a short trade here. Sorry, a long trade. I got stopped. I don't really see much here, to be honest. There's no trade to have, in my opinion. But you can clearly see that this monthly level just is holding us pretty amazing support. This was a very simple failed auction. I believe I had talked about this. But as you can see here, we had that move down, chilled below the low for a couple hours, moved back up. This, of course, would have been a trigger to a long trade, which, by the way, I did not take. I only added in spot. I would say with first target to around 140. That would be the first one. But overall, nothing interesting in my opinion on Solana. I still would expect, there's no strength. Overall, if we have that reverse on Bitcoin, I would still expect to go back below 100. But really nothing interesting, to be honest. If anything, I would try to get into a short trade right here. On this anchor view up here. So anywhere between 140 to 150, I would monitor for a reaction and I would try to get into a short trade. Yeah, and that would line up also with the higher targets of Bitcoin. We go and take out all this liquidity that we built up. I think that could be good. Yeah, anyways, I think that's all that we need to cover. I am in that long trade on Bitcoin, which is a little bit of a loss. Probably entered a bit late. But that's it. That is pretty much it. Of course, you could give yourself some more space if you don't want to risk it, you know, because what Bitcoin likes to do many times is, for example, to go down and take this low once again, just to stop out the early longs and then reverse. So if you want to keep some space, I usually do that. That's up to you. Obviously, you're going to be risking a bit more. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep my stop loss here and either go to target or get stopped out. We already have that lower time frame change in market structure. So obviously we could have timed this a bit better, perhaps with a Fibonacci entry. Let me check this. But again, keep a wider invalidation if you're worried about that, and you shouldn't have an issue. So once again, this is a very lower time frame thing, but we took out these lows, so it's all right actually. I might add some size, even though we already had the first test. Anyways, if we go back to around 8,900, I'm gonna add another 0.5 Bitcoin with the stop loss below here. That's gonna be another $70 risk. I don't mind for that, and then I will let that either go to stop loss for about $200 stop, or I will let that right up to my target, which at that point, if I add to my position, is going to be 1.2K. So again, I would be risking, and there's that pump. That kind of sucks. I kind of wanted to get filled a bit more. Anyways, whatever happens. I'm happy for this to reverse here, or I'm also happy for this to get me another position. I might actually set a limit order here for the 0.5 Bitcoin, just because if it does go back down real quick to here, 140, I'm gonna be doubling my position. And with that stop loss, I will show you 89.46. That's only $47 for me. So that's a great deal. I like the setup. I would obviously be counting on the fact that these lows don't get taken out. I would just move it slightly lower because I will get pissed if, like the other day, what is this? Right, and here. So yeah, anyways, I think I'm positioned all right. I don't mind staying like this. And I don't mind taking a loss if it comes to that. I didn't ask myself about Bitcoin. We're gonna fly next month. New all-time highs. Enjoy. I don't know based on what you're saying that. But if that works for you, that works for you. So no judging. Bitcoin will make a new all-time high and Ethereum will surpass 4,000 and altcoins will recover good. But Bitcoin will be king. I mean, I don't know how you can make these type of statements. I am pretty good myself with analysis. I've made most of the biggest predictions, but I wouldn't say that with certainty, to be honest. But once again, I don't know what kind of analysis you're making. Would love to know if you want to share that in the Discord. I would love to check that out. And whatever you're using or doing, I would love to see it. But yeah, I mean, typically it's very hard to make such statements such as we will make a new all-time high, we will pump, stuff like that. With this volume, don't know, man. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to be updating this scalp trade in the Discord. If you took it along with me, great. If not, too bad. And yeah, anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. I think tomorrow is market open. Yeah, 23rd, market should be open. We'll go live a bit earlier if I have the time. We'll be looking at the New York Open. By the way, regarding the stock market, what did I tell you? I have been the biggest bull on this. I literally had, if you go back and watch my lives, I literally had a drawing. I don't know if I hit it. No, I didn't. But I literally had a drawing. You can go back and find it somewhere. I was giving you exactly this move for a new all-time high. I've been speaking about 7,000 so many times. I'm surprised I still don't have it on this chart. That was my target. I told you buy any dip. And this is, I think, at this point, definitely going to make a new all-time high, which could help Bitcoin. Very surprised, actually, that today the market is up almost 1% and Bitcoin is kind of doing shit. But yeah, that was probably the simplest trade that you could have had. We literally just took out all the liquidity down here onto the anchor VWAP, flipped the value area high. Obviously, it was going to go take this, and sorry, these. And now we're going for these. Also, these are equal highs, if I'm not wrong. No, they're not. But anyways, stock market looks good for further upside. So that's all. And have a good night, guys. How do I end this stream?